Welcome everyone to another amazing live stream. Fans of vintage and retro, nice bits and bytes and the latest and greatest open source things. You need grab your coffee, take your tea. We have a fun thing to announce and troll the billions funded Mozilla Foundation, right? You know, the creator of Firefox browser who somehow cannot maintain an amazing browser, and despite all their leadership, C-level executives and funding, millions, if not billions in funding, but they can't keep their freaking browser to compile, right? Yesterday's video, too big to fix, except this strange German Wunderkind or so does it. We're currently live here on YouTube to keep it running. 3 years ago, world's first, latest Mozilla on, yes, 486, and of course the goal PS3. In today's video, of course, I spent another hour last night guru meditating Rust code, the latest, greatest, safest and secure or bug-free, so they say. We made it. I have Firefox, latest Firefox 122.01, 32 freaking bit. They said it's impossible. We can't maintain it. It's too much effort. Yet somehow this strange, unsuccessful one-man YouTuber with this funny little Linux distribution somehow can keep everything working. Itanium? Check. SJ Octane? Check. MIPCell? 32-bit? CI20? Check. PS3? Every year broken upstream? Check. Everything freaking works, TM. And now latest Firefox browser. This is straight from the shout out to Imagination Technologies. They donated this 80 or so whatever dollar board to me, dual core, like years ago, right? So they sent it 4 years ago, so right. This is a 4, 5, maybe even in technology wise, it's like 8-year-old technology, dual core MIPS CI20 board here, totally underpowered, low performance. I'm actually still secure shelled in here. That is running straight, like strange, this strange YouTuber. He's actually testing his own shit. Like on real hardware. On like 486s and stuff. Professionals can't believe it. You can do testing and you can fix shit. So yeah, uptime 1 hour. Of course, I'm already working ahead here in the office in the exact code open source T2 Linux and YouTube studio here, coming to you live from Berlin. It's a little bit oldish, right? I never bothered because, yeah, theoretically it's in the meantime upstream, right? Like it's running T2 except the bloody kernel. Theoretically, share, like and subscribe. I believe in the meantime it is everything. Like 5 years later, stuff is upstream. Yeah, I never bothered to upgrade. This is basically the kernel Imagination shipped it to me. Doesn't matter. The rest is here. T2 freaking latest build 24.2 with Firefox nightly. Fixing 3 years. Everyone says, yeah, it can't be done. It is too difficult. Yet, I said it yesterday, right? Underlining my point. If I would be a C-level executive, maybe they should make me so, of the Mozilla Linux Foundation. Imagine what you could do with all the hundreds of millions if you would focus on the Linux kernel and the freaking Firefox browser. Not only would we have the year of the Linux desktop and audio would freaking work, we would also have an amazing, much better than Google's Chrome browser. What is the issue? The issue, as seen in yesterday's live stream, the latest and greatest safe and most quality Rust code does not compile for nearly all 32-bit architectures due to unresolved imports in standard Zinc Atomic U64, trying to use unsigned 64-bit atomics, which most 32-bit platforms like 486, even 686, or kind of, 686 has it actually, ARM, MIPS 32 have, right? x86, why do I do this? Theoretically, I only want, so I don't even want to run Firefox on MIPCell. It's just a collateral fixes here that we somehow the last person 3 years later. This freaking bug is 3 years old and closed. It's closed with fixed. I don't know how they fixed it because it's still broken. Like maybe they fixed it for one build and then immediately broke it again. I don't know. It's there, it doesn't build. It's also ridiculous that is only in WebGPU, which obviously you wouldn't even probably, I mean, theoretically you could run Power VR. Theoretically, yes, you could run WebGPU on a Power VR board. 2024, it's also ridiculous that you can't just disable it, right? Hard-coded stuff, you need to build with WebGPU, otherwise I would need to spend even more time. I fixed it for real, as seen on yesterday's video. I simply replaced U64, their ID there for using this ID for queue submission. It does, of course, not to be 64-bit. Obviously, submitting for million object IDs stuff should be fine, right? I changed this to usize, like professional Rust programmers at the overfinanced Mozilla Foundation should have done 3 years ago. Yet somehow, why am I the last person on freaking Earth to keep fixing all the shit in my free spare time? It's, I mean, yeah, I mean, then I'm here. Shall I subscribe? I take the credit. The fixer, the apparently Wunderkind or so. It can't be done yet. I really can only do it in my spare time after work on a weekend. So unfortunately that doesn't fix all. So it completely, I just don't have my second capture card set up right, which also I don't have enough USB-C bandwidth on the Steam Deck because I'm live streaming from a freaking Steam Deck, which is why I have it still running as you see here. But it's also like, yeah, you would see a freaking brother, you know, this is literally a screenshot from an hour ago. Yeah, that's the stuff. Of course, it's a little bit slowish, but that is, I'm running this from NFS root. I wanted to copy it, but I only have a 2 gig vintage abandoned garbage SD card in there, which I had T2 on there from last year, but yeah, after I have other SD cards like here and here, but the stuff is, there is content on. I didn't want to wipe any of my 12 SD cards here, right? It's like, yeah, you have 12 SD cards, of course you need the 13s. So I NFS rooted that, the latest build. And it probably, yeah, 192, you know my build IP already. This is straight from my build server, 192.168 to 222. And that NFS root with a not the fastest CPU or not the fastest Ethernet with just 1 gig of memory or so. Like, yeah, 2024 you can still, yeah, like a gig of memory. It's not amazing, but the point was not that it's amazing. The point was it can be done. Ideally, of course, we want to run this on the PS3. Maybe it's a little bit faster on the PS3, although way less memory. And on the SGIO2 and Octane, right? SGIO2 and Octane might break differently, so theoretically that is 99% close of could potentially run on the precious previous video SGIO2 and Octane. The only thing is they are big endians, so probably some code or JIT will break differently, and that is why I pre-debugged that here, right? Like, I knew that worked, except Atomics, apparently 2024 or 2021. 3 years ago, Atomic still, and pointer size is still magically difficult to master even by the best Firefox native Rust programmers, engineers, apparently. Like, yeah, IT difficult, rocket science. You need a computer science degree and stuff. So why do I do this? In theory, I have some targets, but the other targets are even more broken, right? I fixed 486 years ago. It's broken. I mean, it's segmentation faulting. And I just wanted to get an overview, right? Before I tried to, I said it the other day, right? Also code so large for 686 debug object and symbols. 3 GB, right? We have seen this when I debugged Firefox 3 years ago for Ultraspark 64-bit. I knew already executables 3 freaking gigabyte. Obviously that is exhausting the 3 GB of user space, virtual address space on 32-bit CPUs. So this is why I wanted to get an overview. Is it even possible before I spend even more time fixing PowerPC for all the Power, Macintosh and PS3 goodness, and 4 and 686 again? So yes, it is possible. it runs easily. Strangely, our increasingly successful, maybe for a reason, YouTube channels make it possible for me to work on all this stuff, work overtime, do all the fixes that nobody else, even those billions of dollars, does not dare to fix. And it underlines my point. Multiple points, money doesn't fix a thing. If you throw money on people, they not necessarily, they might do in VPN and pockets and stuff, and not necessarily like the Linux Foundation, 2% Linux kernel funding, yay. And it is not impossible, right? People always say, it is too complicated. It's like, it took me 1 freaking hour. It took me 1 hour YouTube live stream of summarizing the problem, talking with you, and 1 hour on the couch at midnight, like not even being a freaking Rust expert. Like 2024, dumb YouTuber becomes Rust expert because everyone writes now shitty Rust code. Like after decades of shitty C code and a decade of shitty C++ code. No, welcome to 2024. Now we can debug and fix other people's not safely working Rust code. Yay. Our life coming full circle and being complete. Nothing like, what's up next? Fixing our insurances and banks COBOL code and IBM's mainframe previous video. I rest my case. It is ridiculous that somehow nobody else is fixing it. 3-year-old stuff, still broken, closed, still broken. The patch is minimal, the patch is not yet perfect. Of course I can show you the patch today in Vim for all the people's request syntax highlighting of Firefox. The patch is absolutely tiny, right? Although not yet perfect, because eventually at midnight I had enough and wanted to go to bed. So not hotfix, this is basically W. So half of the stuff is perfect, like as seen in yesterday's live stream. It is as simple as replacing a bloody third-party Rust web GPU core stuff from atomic U64 to atomic usize, which unsigned integer size equals pointer size. It is so easy. Somehow I didn't figure out at midnight, excuse my laziness, eventually also want to have some sleep. So most of the stuff is working, only I didn't like, people, the Rust developers tell us, use Rust, it is amazing. Have you seen C++ error messages? Look at our beautiful Rust error messages. And then the Rust error messages. Ladies and gentlemen, let me present you the amazing, superior, also like Firefox, even not snappy on a AMD custom APU, Steam Deck. Rust developers, use Rust, it's so much superior error messages, the error messages. It's like, yeah, that is totally so much more amazing than C++. You made my day. And I rest my case. So all of this stuff is how it probably should be, how it would work for the most part. Somehow only, I mean, this are just a dozen changes, right? Sparkling a dozen of U64 to usize. Everyone and some student or kid, like a motivated 12-year-old Wunderkind, could have done that at their parents' kitchen table, for God's sake. Why is this not 3 years later freaking fixed? The only thing is, so it's that easy, right? It is so obviously easy. It hurts me. It hurts me so much, I need to laugh about it. It's absolutely ridiculous. Use Rust as it. So the only thing is, this is your load. I need to study Rust more. This produced, so I didn't, Rust, right? Superior error messages, used Rust, it is so much more amazing. Spoiler alert, not really. I couldn't make this shit to compile, that complains, it still complains. So I just return here OK values. This is obviously not correct. I need to further study Rust. It's basically 2 changes I couldn't make work at midnight, but hey, proof of concept. I just wanted to see, does all the rest, does all the other millions of lines of garbage code of Firefox build, link, and produce a working executable? And spoiler alert, it does. So now we can fix the remaining stuff. And hey, Mozilla Foundation, if you're watching, maybe donate some dollars for my tip jar of fixing, like every month, fixing your bugs and implementation marginalities. So this somehow still errored out with errors like this. So this was here like, yeah, something like that. Maybe it even was that, but maybe not. So something of that kind. Expected use size found, yeah, some sort of this error. And like, use Rust superior error messages, except it's not freaking telling me precisely how that is not the right type. So somehow this result with success, which is also in not Ash, but some Vulkan extension, yeah, one of this kind of things here. Somehow this is somehow promoting the type of, I mean, the Rust compiler tells me somehow like hint or help, you can, no, it said something like help, the return value influences a type of some sort. It sounds trivial. It should be trivial. I mean, it will be trivially fixable, right? It's just like one hour more of learning Rust, and then I fix this. So somehow I didn't quite figure out what return value of what. That's also the problem, right? Like this continuation of, I mean, in a way it's simple looking and similar to C++. The Rust developers will hate this. This is similar to C++, just a little bit more rusty. And so yeah, it's somehow return type, like help return type, influencing type, yada yada. I couldn't really figure out which return type of what shit here. It's like here, it should work, it doesn't, just like return okay value. It's fine for a test. So basically only two changes, or maybe it's only one change which fixes both cases, we will see. I will fix this later, but spoiler alert, this is how simple you can fix, you and everyone else freaking on this planet could in 3 years time fix Rust for 32-bit architectures. And it's absolutely laughable that with hundreds, millions, billions over the years funding, the Mozilla Foundation cannot keep this freaking compiling. It takes independent Wunderkinder like Linus Torvalds and stuff, other amazing people at Arch Linux 32, Vintage Gentoo, and Debian's also partially working Linux, to fix all the stuff that big mega corporations don't do, right? And that is ridiculous. And then people troll us on YouTube comments and get a life, get a girlfriend, hey, I have one, even have a wife. People laugh at us and still we keep fixing shit. It's ridiculous. So yeah, that's the video. It does work. Yeah, as I said, it's not the fastest, but it's probably, I also probably didn't use shared memory. Because it's a change root, it's probably using some inefficient X11 protocol stuff. This is not the most efficient stuff. So last but not least, I probably should add an overlay of a much older Firefox version, because that version unfortunately is not the most snappy. Oh cool, graphic artifacts. Do we? AMD GPU is resetting. Wonderful. Speaking about, let's hope this recovers. Maybe it doesn't. Hello. That's a fun thing. I still have a mouse cursor though. Recurrently AMD GPU at its finest. Wonderful. That is a new kind of... But does it even still change? Yeah, tech really hates me. AMD GPU crashed. Usually it recovers, had to reboot Steam Deck. That is a new thing. Usually, I mean, even freshly rebooted. Usually, previously, the Steam Deck only, AMD GPU stuff only crashed every 5 days. That this crashed like that is also new, but that's basically it. Yeah. what you don't write yourself is somehow broken. That's basically, we're also through with our run to summary. It's, again, I'm sorry to be the messenger, right? I want as much as you that stuff just works, but it doesn't. And it's just fighting windmills when even open source enthusiasts who have probably, like on forums and websites and Reddit and stuff and Discords and so on, mailing list, run or celebrate the deletion of vintage and retro stuff when it would just work and there is next to zero effort to keep it working, and yet people delete it or don't care. And last but not least, for the Mozilla Foundation, I said it yesterday, if that would be my multi-billion-dollar project, I would keep it running. I would keep generic C and Rust code running. Of course, have the assembly optimization for porting for new architectures, right? 32-bit RISC-V coming next, and so on. It's not necessarily only about vintage and retro MIPCell, PS3, Power Macintoshes and stuff. And I can't totally not understand, like for me, it's absolutely outrageously ridiculous that the people handle it like that, that they don't care, that they have no dedication, no attention for detail, and so on and so forth. Yeah, that's it. We have it working. Don't forget to subscribe, showing some token of appreciation, maybe Patreon or YouTube membership, because obviously I spent way too much time on this, but not only does it pay off now with more people using increasingly amazing T2 Linux, but even share, like, and subscribe, especially on the More Life channel. Amazing growth, and that is what keeps me motivated, and the monthly bills, including for vintage and retro hardware, electricity and internet, paid. Have a wonderful day. Go out, do some nice things on your devices, fix some bugs, and I hope to see you soon for all the next amazing stuff. Probably even in a bit on Twitch or so, fixing the last lines here of whatever is there. Yeah, Rust, amazing. So that's it. See you next time. Do we have more? Actually, I should check one more comment, except, yeah, that AMD GPU also is, I mean, the problem's also, AMD GPU is so complex, I even can't debug that alone, right? Like, good luck debugging, diagnosing why AMD GPU sometimes randomly fails here. Also, yeah, use dongles, right? They said use-PC for everything. Yeah, use-PC for everything, and then it glitches out like that. Do we even have a oops in? So I didn't have anything here, but do we have a oops here maybe from just? I mean, the mouse cursor was still moving, so that wasn't totally dead. Wait, is it even? What do we have here? AMD protection fault. There is some. There's some. I think it was this one. Page fault. Firefox page faulted. It's like, yay, web GPU stuff. And by the way, one last thing. I would also say, yesterday I said too complex, too big to fix. I still stand by that. And I would also say, as seen yesterday with the RISC-V enablement, web MIDI, or what it's called, web MIDI, web USB, or variations of the whatever the trademark name of that is. I would also argue web USB, web serial, web MIDI, even web GPU probably. All this stuff should not even be in a browser by default. I think it would be much better software architecture, because I'm not even sure if you could disable that selectively. It doesn't. There is not an immediate config switch for that. I would argue a browser, the software architecture, yes, performance and whatnot, but I would argue a browser should just be the core. Maybe even, of course, then the people say it should just work, but seriously, next to nobody is using web USB. Next to nobody, I mean, seriously freaking nobody is using web MIDI, and very few people use web USB except for bricking stuff, or like 2024, right? Firmware update and jailbreaking your iPhone and PS4 and PS5 and stuff over web USB. Yay! I would still argue this should not be in a browser by default, because it makes the attack surface larger, it makes maintaining and keeping it working larger, and not only for vintage and retro architectures and new ports, like you port it to RISC-V, and then you need to port web MIDI and web USB and web serial and the Rust stuff, and they have all this stuff hard-coded. I'm not making this stuff up right. This is absolutely low quality engineering of generating or typing all the defines for RISC-V and all the other architectures. In my opinion, totally not how it should be done. Maybe I can show you one. And instead, in my opinion, a browser should just be the core, and the stuff should be plugins and extensions, and maybe even ship them by default, but make it 2 source trees or third-party extension tiers that you build Firefox, just the core shit, even if it's 1 source tree, similar to glibc and glibc ports or whatnot, and OBS or OBS plugins. It's not that rocket science, right? Make just a freaking browser core that's just a freaking state-of-the-art browser, and web GPU, web MIDI, USB, and all this stuff, and all the other garbage that I don't know. It's probably even web freaking Wi-Fi discovery, right? Or who knows what there is in. And then security vulnerabilities, right? Even if it's 1 source tree, make it fully separated. And obviously web GPU is probably even disabled by default. At least it was last year. I probably should check. And because security, right? Like, who would want random websites like your online banking and train ticket purchasing and ransomware and crypto mining use your web GPU? Obviously not. There should be, the problem is it's quite messed in there. I don't know if it would be possible to disable it. Maybe it is, but the source tree does not even look like that, right? Even if it potentially maybe is, there is not an obvious configure switch for it, and it should be like totally separated, similar to Linux kernel and drivers or stuff, but just a sort, like also for better maintenance, right? And so on. For all the obvious benefits of separating modular architecture. I had here some stuff like, okay, maybe some of the stuff is online, but they have huge, like there's even authenticator stuff. Like there's so many crazy stuff in there, like HID, chip card reader and whatnot stuff, right? And then here there are huge tables here in IOCTL RISC-V, for example, that we still need to patch in there, right? It's half in there, but not fully in there for crazy reasons. Whatever, it probably difficult. And there are huge IOCTL tables, like maybe that one, I don't know if I mean, many I quirk and just like, yeah, there's like more of like just all MIPS here. It's like, this is also not, the problem is, why should it not be done like this? There are system headers, like user include, Linux kernel, HID and whatnot, and they just C binding convert that and ship that here, and then it's not there for all architectures. They shouldn't ship it hard-coded like this, right? They should C bind gen that on the fly or whatnot, or have more direct C header interoperability. Like, yeah, you can't build it because there are some HID MIDI USB serial Rust modules to port as well. It's like, yeah, never-ending story. I rest my case. I hope you enjoyed this, learned something. All the stuff, of course, coming to T2 Linux near you. Don't delay. Share, like, subscribe, and download today. And I see you soon for all the next amazing fixes, Rust code future, and other amazing stuff to come.